What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Laying the Points with Farley Bets. I am Farley Bets. That's at Farley Bets on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Mainly Twitter, mainly Instagram, because TikTok, I wouldn't care if TikTok went away, to be honest. Seems like an extra chore for me to get on there. But welcome, everybody, to Laying the Points. Great to have you back, as always. A weekly sports betting podcast. Might be 2 times a week as we get through these newborn stages as we are over here at the Farley household, which I'm actually really enjoying. We're getting some good sleeps. She's a pretty good baby, but it is all encompassing, right? She needs mom and dad very often. So bear with me as we get through these first weeks. But we have a fantastic show today. Welcoming Maddie Betts. That's at Maddie Betts with 2 S's at the end on Twitter. Joining us today to talk UFC 287. He always has some fantastic angles and ways to bet on these fights for plus money or some huge plus money in some cases. And he's won huge plus money in previous cards. The Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, last time they fought, he won that KO in the 5th round, a huge win. I think it was 30-1. And he's got some great bets for you to consider this Saturday in the UFC as well. I can't wait for this card. I love the UFC. I love talking about it. And it's a fantastic conversation with the incomparable Maddie Betts. So hope you all enjoy the show today. We'll be back next week with a preview of the NBA playoffs. Hoping to get a guest on again next week as well, but you can look forward to that NBA playoff preview. That's what we do best, is handicap the NBA, and we got a lot of thoughts. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening to Laying the Points with Farley Betts. Let's get to it. UFC 287. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Laying the Points with Farley Betts. Fantastic show today that I'm really excited about because I'm bringing on a first-time guest that I've been wanting to bring on for a long time, at Maddie Betts. That's Maddie, T-T-Y, with 2 S's at the end of Betts. What's going on, my man? South Florida boy, from what I know. We were talking a little bit before the show. You moved around a lot. But this UFC event is near you, man. And let me tell you, ever since my bachelor party, I miss South Florida. Dude, it's a good-looking area, and it's a good time.
You can't beat South Florida. I'm in Delray Beach, so I'm about 40 minutes from the fights this weekend. I'm pumped. I got tickets. I'm gonna be at the Hard Rock.
That's it.
I'm gonna be at the Hard Rock Friday and Saturday, and then go to the fights for the prelims and the main card. But I'm pumped, bro. This card is. I've only been to one other card that I think was comparable, and it was the Gilbert Burns Hamzat Chimaev card, which wasn't even the main event. I think it was the co-main.
Yeah.
But it felt like the main event. But I'm so pumped for this card. Pereira, Adesanya, Burns, Masvidal. I mean, and then it's just stacked from top to bottom. It's not even that top heavy, so I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, I'm half jealous that you live in South Florida and you have that life whenever you want. At the same time, it's like Vegas. Like, I don't know if I'd survive, dude. Like, you got to get used to it. Because I got some buddies down there, obviously, still. And it's like, how do you guys, you got to temper it. You can't just always be out, always at the casino, always at the beach.
Right.
But it's certainly.
It's not as bad as Vegas, I'll tell you that, because I could not live in Las Vegas. South Florida, I at least have other things to do. I'm not like next door to a casino, like 20, 30, 40 minutes from most of them. But Vegas, I don't know how people live there. That's just wild to me.
Me neither. Well, so are you kind of do you prefer like the Miami scene? Because for me, I don't know why I would go down to Miami.
I'm cool with going to Miami every couple months, but like too much traffic, too much going on. I'm more of like Delray Beach, Boca Raton. I love the area there. Yeah. You got kind of the best of both worlds. You got nice places to eat, go out for some drinks, but it's also more low key and casual and less crazy than Miami. So I like going to Miami for stuff like UFC, but like, again, I couldn't live there and the traffic drives me nuts.
Yeah. It's like the Vegas of the East Coast, right? Your prices go up, everything else. Fort Lauderdale, that's like the little sibling of Miami, but I think that's a way better time too, right? The better bars, cheaper beers, better time.
Exactly.
But, all right, my man. Well, let's get to this card. It's a huge card. I know we want to talk about some of these fights, some of these prelim fights as well. And you have a look at the first fight on the card on Saturday, Jacqueline Amorim versus Sam Hughes. What's your take on this one? I love that you have a play on the very first fight, because most of us are just like, we got our first margarita. We're ready for the whole night.
Yeah.
Maybe not betting it, but you're betting it right from the get-go.
Yeah, so I have a rule. If I go to the fights, I bet on every single fight. Again, this is for entertainment for me.
Absolutely.
I am up a little bit on UFC this year, but it's a roller coaster typically for me. I've had some crazy highs and some bad cards too. So, but this is a fight that I think that Jacqueline's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just on another level. She's a Brazilian wrestler. She's a champ in BJJ. She, I believe, is 6-0 with 5 subs in MMA now. I actually think this is like, because it's the first fight on the prelims and no one really knows these fighters. I mean, people know Sam Hughes and she's pretty tough, but I think this is actually a sneaky, easy bet of the night, if you will. And I think right now, I think Jacqueline at plus 125 on the submission is kind of what I'm looking at. I think she'll get it done in the first or second round. But like, this girl's been practicing jiu-jitsu since she came out of the womb, bro. Like, she's literally, her dad had her 5 years old practicing BJJ. Like, I just think there's levels. I think this girl's going to come in and sub her pretty quickly. So I want to say that number was either plus 125 or plus 155 on the submission, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I'm going by DraftKings. I'm seeing it at plus 150.
Nice.
And then if you want to do win by submission or decision, then it gets way juiced up, right, to minus 225, because we know a lot of these fights.
A lot of the female fights go to decision. It's usually like minus 400 for the over.
I know. Yeah, unfortunately, which makes a pretty good parlay leg in some cases. But I like your look. I mean, you're getting plus money there. I love a story like that. Somebody who's doing it since they were a baby, essentially. So great look there on the first fight of the night. There you go, ladies and gents. You can have action on this card as soon as it starts, which is probably around what, like 6:30.
I think the prelims start at. I think it's like 4 or 5. I might be wrong though. I got to check.
Yeah, maybe as early as 5 o'clock sometimes, but it's on the East Coast, so they probably don't have to push it at too weird of a time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another prelim that I'm interested in. Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus Luana Pinheiro. So here's my take on this, man.
Yeah.
I think Michelle Waterson-Gomez is, I think she's kind of done, man. She's been like modeling a little bit, the karate hottie, right? Like, she kind of got famous, has some tough fights, has some good victories, but it just feels like maybe she's not completely focused on the UFC. On the other hand, you got Luana Pinheiro, who, I mean, first of all, even at minus 165, I think is a steal. I think that's a pretty good price. But this is a chick who's won 8 fights in a row. She's submitted 50% of her people in 10 out of her fights. And she just, she's a great grappler, right? And those are the fighters that Michelle Waterson has had issues with. She can get taken to the ground. Michelle Waterson likes to stand up, throw those kicks, etc. I don't think she's going to have an opportunity in this one, man. Kind of like a submission win for Luana, or maybe submission or decision, similar to your previous bet. You can get Luana Pinheiro, though, up to plus 600 by submission. And again, 50% of her wins, she's 10-1, have been by submission. So I don't know. I think it's pretty good value there. Obviously, Waterson has some good experience, but I'm looking to fade her, man. I think that her kind of time under the limelight is starting to run out. What do you got in this fight?
I'm actually on the dog in this fight, but I won't be shocked if it goes the way you said it.
Yeah.
I still think Michelle Waterson's in great shape. And I think Luana, like, she's only had 3 fights in the UFC. And she looked a little gassed in one of those fights. She also had the DQ win. So I just think Michelle is like a veteran, and I don't think she's quite done yet. And she looks really good, in great shape. She's got really good striking. She doesn't have knockout power by any means, but I could see her maybe inching out a decision here. So I'm going to take the money line in that fight, but not something I'm going to be betting the house on by any means.
Yeah. Plus, you got to think that Michelle Waterson knows what her weaknesses are, right? She's working on her takedown defense, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if she can keep that on the feet, then I think, we might see some live odds change in her direction if she shows some good takedown defense. But I'm going to stick with Luana for that one. I love the plus 600 as like a, just like a shot, maybe like a half a unit play, something like that.
Yeah.
But so that's in the prelims, and this is the main, or the, I guess you could call it the main event of the prelims. Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum, a slight favorite in this matchup. And dude, this one's tough for me, right? Because Kelvin's he's a seasoned pro. Went toe to toe with Israel Adesanya, almost beat him. I mean, But then Chris Curtis, dude, I mean, if this guy stands on his feet, he can knock anybody out.
Yeah.
What do you got on this one, Matty?
So this to me is the toughest fight on the entire card to predict. I think the best version of Kelvin Gastelum smokes Chris Curtis.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't know what we're going to get out of Kelvin Gastelum.
Exactly.
And Chris Curtis is a stud. And he typically doesn't really lose to strikers like that. But Gastelum. So I think the one thing Curtis has here is he has really good counter striking, and Gastelum likes to come forward. So he could have some success there. I'm literally flip-flopped on this fight maybe 3 times already. What I honestly like the most is the fight to go the distance or just over 2.5 rounds. But it's starting to if you're going to bet that, you should have bet it 2-3 days ago, honestly, because I saw some crazy money come in on that. But I think it was at -190, to go over 2.5 rounds, and now I'm seeing it 230 plus. But the way I look at it is I don't see Gastelum finishing Chris Curtis. And Gastelum, if there's one thing he's proven, he has a crazy chin. So the only thing that scares me in this fight, if you're gonna bet Chris Curtis, is the volume. I feel like Gastelum's just gonna throw way more. I think he's just gonna throw way more strikes, and I think he can do more in the striking. Curtis is really good boxing, but Gastelum will throw the kicks and he'll come forward. And my gut tells me Gastelum is gonna win a decision, just based off of volume. Even like Chris Curtis, I can't get that Jack Hermanson fight out of my head. I can't even get the Joaquin Buckley fight out of my head. Buckley was not really piecing him up, but he was just outstriking, outlanding him until he got finished. Even the commentators in that fight were you know how the commentators will say one thing and then the next second the fight will change. I think in that fight they were oh, Chris Curtis can't keep doing this. He's got to do that. And then Curtis knocks him out. But I'm getting the vibes of what Cheeto Vera and Corey Sandhagen did, right? I feel like Cheeto just didn't know what to do. He didn't have enough volume. It was a constant attack just coming at him. And I feel like Gastelum's going to do that with the pressure. And I actually see a lot of people that I respect on Chris Curtis, but gun to my head, I go Gastelum. I don't like the movement on the odds. I would have liked to get him more at a pick 'em. I like the over as my official play, and I would probably sprinkle on a Gastelum decision.
I like it. I think those are all sharp looks. I mean, the Kelvin Gastelum by decision is the favorite of the plus money, right? It's plus 150 on DraftKings. So, they're saying, if you're looking for a decision victory like that, that's probably going to be the best case scenario there. But like you said, man, it really all depends on what Kelvin Gastelum we get, right? He's had some weight issues, certainly some motivational issues, it seems. If the best version of him, and this is, I mean, I kind of like the way that the UFC set up this fight, right? Because if we see the best version of him, then he's right back in the mix again.
Agreed.
But Chris Curtis, this is a level up fight for him, right? If he can knock out Kelvin Gastelum, which is not easy to do,
it's really,
then it's a level up fight for him as well, right? So I'll probably just sit back and watch this one, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because it is one of the harder fights, and as you see, the price says it all, right? It's
I think the over 2.5 could be a solid parlay piece for some bettors if they want to throw that in something. Again, I don't know what it's at right now, but I saw it at up to -230 from being at -190 earlier in the week.
Now let me ask you this: if Gastelum is controlling the fight, it gets into the third round, live odds go way up on Chris Curtis to get a knockout before it all finishes. Do you maybe sprinkle on that?
I mean, I'm curious what the round 3 knockout is for Curtis pre-fight, because I think that number will probably be higher than the live odds.
Oh well, that's true.
I don't know though. I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
it's so hard to bet on. It's so hard to bet on a guy. I just deep down, I feel like Curtis is going to get frustrated, kind of like he did for Manson, and he's going to lose a decision. I just see that happening. But he's definitely always live for the knockout. I mean, he's got some crazy hands.
Plus 1,800 for a third round knockout from Chris Curtis. So have a damn good night at the casino or wherever you are Saturday night if you cash that one. Okay, let's get to the main card. Great card. A really
Let me give you, before we do the main card, I have one crazy long shot. I always have to have one long shot in the prelim.
Absolutely.
But Chase Sherman, round 3 knockout is 40 to 1. 40-1.
I'm
He's a
sure it
big
is because he gasses out so quick, man.
Yeah, so the only reason I like it is his opponent is kind of coming in on short notice, even though he just fought a little bit ago.
That's true. Yeah.
And Sherman's a guy that like will accumulate damage. Like he's not going to put you out, but like if he's able to like survive early, which I don't know that he is, I think he's like he could be down 2-0 going into the third round. And if his opponent starts to tire out, like maybe he could accumulate some damage there and get like a late TKO. So that's like the smallest of sprinkles, like less than a quarter unit if you're going to bet it. But it's 40-1, and I've hit crazy long shots. I had Pereira 30-1. I've had Cheeto 25-1. This would be the highest one I've hit if I hit it. But I got a sprinkle on it just for fun.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen your hits, man, and I love the fact you do that too because it's like, I mean, I think I hit one recently for 10 units too, but I felt like I was kind of, practicing my Matty Betts, mentality because, dude, it's like then you have a good night, right? Like no matter what, you're up. So
my motto is all it takes is one.
all it takes is one. And something about this card, man, probably because it's in Miami. I
Yeah.
feel like there's gonna be some crazy shit going on in this
Dude.
on this fight card. So worth a look for sure. Chase Sermon, I mean, he just has to, he has to survive, right? Because he gasses out so quick, especially if he's getting taken down. But maybe he's also worked on his takedown defense. We'll see.
And he has a round 3 knockout recently too. Let me pull that up. Which fight was it?
Good old Chase. Some people don't think Chase should.
Jared Bandera, but Jared Bandera is really not as bad as people think. Like he's got.
What was that last year?
That was in April 2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, that was in July 2022. He lost to Romanov and Jake Collier early subs, but like again, this is a 40-1 for a reason. He's got to survive early, which is going to be tough. But I think if both guys are tired going into that third round, you just never know.
Yeah, and power still tends to survive even in those late rounds, right? They can't stand up, but they can still punch with a lot of power sometimes. So look out for that, especially maybe in round 3 for Chase Sherman. Okay, let's move on to the main card. Matty Betts here talking UFC 287. Again, you can find him at Matty Betts on Twitter. That's 2 S's at the end of Betts. All right, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. This Raul Rosas is 18 years old. Putting all of us to shame as far as like, dude, you're learning how to fight this good that young. That's insane.
It's got to be embarrassing to be like a 28-year-old fighting him and getting subbed.
Right.
Like, this dude's like going to high school. Like he's like in math class, and then he's submitting you. Like it's got to be embarrassing.
Yeah. It goes out to, it goes out for like, dinner. Somebody picks a fight with him and he fucks him up, like a 28-year-old in their prime or something.
Yeah. But the UFC's really pushing him too.
Really pushing him out, right? I mean, I was going to say that. I mean, he's on a pay-per-view fight already. This is only his second fight in the UFC, I believe.
Yeah.
And 18 years old. Here's the thing for me about him. Even though he's fresh, and Christian Rodriguez is obviously the best opponent that he's ever had. Right. I don't think that Christian Rodriguez is all that great, but he's going to be prideful about this fight, right? He's going to be like, I'm not going to let this kid fucking beat me.
Yeah.
The thing about an 18-year-old, man, you remember what it was like to be 18. You have like insane confidence, even if you shouldn't, and there's no reason for Raul Rosas Jr. to not have confidence at this point. He ends every fight early. I just like this fight to end early, man. So I'm going to probably look at props and ways for that to happen, and maybe he gets caught too, right? I mean, this is a veteran that he's facing this time around.
Yeah.
What do you got in this fight?
So I think it's going to go the distance. Not out of you, but it's like 2 grapplers. I mean, Christian Rodriguez has never been finished in 9 MMA fights.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a boring fight. Like I think Rosas is going to hold him down and win the grappling exchanges. And I think it could even be a controversial decision. Like if, just because it's like damage versus control time. And like, I could actually see this being a controversial decision that they're like pushing Rosas here and he gets like a 29-28, like split decision or something. But I just like the number on it because it's more of a contrarian play. Like everyone's going to be on the sub prop here or the early finish. And I think it was plus 245 on a decision, and this could end up being like a grappling match where he could just win on the scorecard. So I just like the number more than anything.
Yeah, to go the distance is plus 110 on DraftKings, but Raul Rosas to win by decision plus 225. I'm trying to look for a split decision in here sometime. I got a nice split decision win in one of these recent ones. I can't find it.
The way judging is nowadays, it's almost you almost have
I know.
these. I mean, even like that Cheeto Vera Sandhagen fight,
Yeah, that was a split, right?
I had crazy money on Cheeto, and I couldn't believe that a judge had him winning 3 rounds. I was like, "What are you watching?"
Yeah.
It's wild. It's literally wild.
Yeah. Dude, I was riding on that one with you, man. I thought that Cheeto, because of everything that his daughter's
That
been
one's
through.
badly.
Yeah, he was okay, but it seemed like he was a little less fiery in that one than I expected, right? Like Sandhagen kind of stifled him pretty early.
Yeah, that one's badly. I lost some serious coin on that fight.
Yeah, you're talking mad shit about all week too, which I love, dude. You got to back it up. You can't be afraid.
Yeah, I was dead. I had to own it though. I was dead. I was just a bad pick.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Cheeto looked really good leading up to that fight. He looked a little different in that fight, if you ask me. Yeah. But these things are hard to predict. I mean, one-on-one sports, I would say, unless you're betting tennis like Djokovic against someone, like I mean, it's tough, man. Anything, especially in a fight, fucking anything can happen.
Fights, yeah.
All right, let's move on to Kevin Holland versus Santiago. I'm going to kill this guy's name, Ponzinibbio.
Yep, you got it.
Kevin Holland, man. Again, I feel like this is kind of a motivation fight again. Are we going to get Kevin Holland who's just like chilling out there, stretching out, doing dance moves? I mean, super talented fighter. Obviously, the more talented fighter in this fight, probably.
Yeah.
But you got a guy who's live, right? And this is an opportunity for Santiago to elevate his career. And Kevin Holland just looks disinterested sometimes. What do you got on this one, man?
Yeah, this one I struggled with, but the biggest thing that moved the needle for me is, and I like Alex Morono, but when I watched that Alex Morono piece up Santiago for 2 rounds, just recently, and again, I've made serious money on Alex Morono. I bet him against Cowboy Cerrone. I had all the knockout props, and I think Morono's super underrated. But at the same time, I don't think Kevin Holland's going to be as hittable as Morono is, and I think, and Kevin Holland is a finisher. Like I think 6 to 7 wins or finishes. This is one where I would take him inside the distance because I think the submission could be live. So I wouldn't want to bet the knockout and get burnt on it. But I think the inside the distance or just any finish is like plus 130-ish, plus 140. So I would take that. The only thing I'm a little hesitant about is just that hand injury for Holland. That scares me a little, but I do think he needs a win badly, and I think he will after that Wonder Boy fight and the Hamzat fight. Like I think he will get takedowns, and he's just not that hittable. Like he's a 9-inch reach advantage. If he wanted to, he could coast to a decision win in this fight, but I don't think he does that because he's an entertainer at heart, and he always wants to put on shows. And I mean, we see guys like the Leech who put out Santiago cold on the feet. I got to believe with Kevin Holland's power and reach advantage that he could either catch him on the feet, maybe a club and sub, or maybe just a TKO or a knockout. So I like the number on the inside the distance here. Ponzinibbio is kind of at the tail end of his career. He actually fights out of my area, I'm pretty sure. One of my boxing coaches actually trains him. But I just think he's kind of at the tail end of his career, and this is a must-win for Kevin Holland. Like, you can entertain, but, like, you got to at some point get back on the win column.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And if you look at those, I mean, Kevin Holland is kind of somebody who he murks people who are weaker competition. But, if you look at his loss, right, Marvin Vittori, which, I'm kind of up and down as well, but he's a formidable.
Yeah, like Brunson.
Yeah, he's
Vittori. Like he doesn't really lose the strikers unless you're Wonder Boy.
Dude, I can't believe that he went toe to toe with Wonder Boy trying to kick with him. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you don't do that.
It was unbelievable. Just down and let him up.
Yeah, it took some courage, give it to him, but that was crazy that he did that. Of course, I'm on like SureDog as we're talking here. My computer's completely slowing down, so hopefully there's no connection issues as we keep talking. But all right, let's move on to the next fight. We got 3 more to go. Rob Font, I know you got some thoughts on this one because I saw a few things you said on Twitter about it. Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. Yanez, up and coming fighter. He's the favorite here at -190. But Font, man, he's a tough dude. High strike rate, right? You like him in this one?
Yeah, so my tweet is probably misleading to a lot of people, and not intentionally, but my point, and I'm actually putting a video out on this fight later today, but I think Rob Font is going to torch him in that first round, the same way Randy Costa did, and Adrian Yanez is, and it's funny because his last name's actually pronounced Yanez. He came out on Twitter and just said that recently because everyone's always said it Yanez, but Adrian Yanez is a guy that will, I think, catch you late after he gets the timing down. And dude, if you go back and watch that, I'm telling you, you have to go back and watch that Cheeto Rob Font fight. I don't know if you saw it, but bro, Cheeto, I've never seen a fight that there wasn't a finish that there could have been, like, so strongly. Like, he got his ass beat. Rob Font is now 35. He has Nate Diaz type scar tissue. Like, his face got lit up. And I'm telling you, I saw this I've already envisioned it. There's going to be a doctor stoppage late in this fight or a late TKO, and Yanez is going to get it done. So right now, I have on my card, I have a round 2 and a round 3 knockout. Depending on what book, some books you can bet like one bet, right, as round 2 or 3. Or what I did is I took round 2 knockout, which is 13-1. And then I took round 3 knockout, which is, round 2 is 6-1, 6 or 7-1, depending on where you get it. And then round 3 is about plus 1,200, plus 1,300, depending on where you get it. But I really believe there's going to be a doctor stoppage in this fight. Like, Yanez is going to get torched early on because he's a slow starter. But once he gets those hands going late in the fight, like, he's got serious power. He's got those hooks and those straight shots. And I just think that Rob Font, like, as durable as he's been, there comes a point in time, like, even in round 3 against Cheeto, like, this dude was, like, out on his feet, like, stumbling, falling over, jumping, grabbing his Cheeto's leg. Like, I couldn't believe he didn't get finished. And at some point, and like with the momentum Adrian Yanez has right now, I just think he's going to catch him in that second or third round. I'm hoping it's the third round because the number's way bigger.
I like the way you're looking at it because, I think that Yanez has to respect, right? He has to respect Rob Font and the kind of competition he's seen throughout his career. I mean, he's faced almost everybody.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's the asterisk for me. He's 35, right? And he's been through it all. Yanez I think he's 29. He's an up and comer. Like, he wants to be elevated to the next level. So I don't think he's going to let this one get away from him. Are there like round 1 lines for like the amount of strikes?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, maybe on some DFS apps, Prize Picks probably.
Yeah, probably on DFS apps. Yeah, but you got some good lines and other stuff, man. Because all those Yanez,
I've seen
round 2
for like the exact props and round outcomes. FanDuel is usually 10 to 30% better than DraftKings or more books that I've seen.
Yeah.
But and I live in Florida, so it is a nightmare to bet all this shit. Like, I have like 3 different boys bet for me. I got bookies. I got all sorts of shit. But like, I'm telling you right now, like, if you're gonna bet exact outcomes in rounds and you have access to FanDuel, usually they're gonna have the best numbers for this stuff. I mean, I've literally seen. I bet. What was it a while back? I had something at like plus 1,300 on FanDuel that was literally plus 900 everywhere else. I mean, the numbers are just like a lot bigger on some of these exact outcomes.
Yeah, I'm gonna move over to FanDuel since you said that because everything you're saying is a little bit lower on DraftKings so far from what I can tell. So I think you're onto something there. Good information. I mean, this is the basic tactics of sports betting, right? You got to shop for the best lines.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any like softwares out there that really compare like these exact props, right? Because obviously, if you're just taking fighter money lines, you can go on a million different websites and see that Gilbert Burns is minus 450 here and 490 here, but like, it's hard to compare these exact outcome props.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and there are different bets that you can make on FanDuel too that are a little, I mean, in my opinion, a little more favorable from what I'm seeing. Like the first 3 minutes of the fight, right? Like a lot of these lines, they cut it in half, or they say like the first 30 seconds or whatever. I mean, it's so hard to bet on shit like that.
Right.
But we'll move over to FanDuel from here on. That's a good note, man. And let's move on to the co-main event: Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. And let me set the table for this, man. I mean, Jorge is sounding like the old Jorge, right? He's like, hey, man, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. Fuck you. I'm gonna make everybody money in Vegas. And, obviously, I mean, at this point, even on FanDuel, Burns is up to minus 530. So, like that's a tough one to take, right? But do you think? I mean, I'll just start with this. Do you think Jorge has a shot in this? Because obviously he's talking about retirement and everything. He always has a shot in terms of knockout power. But Gilbert Burns, it looks like he's trained like an animal for this one. Younger, probably matters a little more to him. But it is in Jorge's Miami. What do you got in this one, Matt? I have to say Gilbert Burns, I think. But, dude, I'm a little scared that like the old Jorge shows up for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way to bet this fight is Gilbert Burns by decision. That's what I have on my card. I got it at plus 175. Like Gilbert, he really hasn't submitted guys at this weight class. I think it's been once or twice. Masvidal hasn't been submitted in the last 14 years. Masvidal's really only been knocked out by Kamaru Usman, and that was the most perfect setup I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Masvidal is actually really good defensively on the feet. And Gilbert's pretty cautious. Like everyone thinks Gilbert's because of that Hamzat fight, which was a war.
Dude, that was an amazing fight.
That was a great fight, but like he's locked in. Like he wants a title shot. Like he wants to entertain people, but he's also not going to come out against Masvidal and just start throwing and put himself in harm's way. I think it's going to be a really slow start. Like I think the first 2 to 3 minutes is going to be a lot of feints and just movement. But I like Gilbert by decision. I think he kind of ragdolls him as the fight goes on, gets some late takedowns, maybe like a 30-27, maybe a 29-28. But I think that's the only way to bet this fight. Like, yeah, you can – if you're going to bet Masvidal, like you're better off just taking the knockout. Yeah. Like I think you get that at plus 600 or 700, whatever the number is. I mean, yeah, he could win a decision if he just does more damage, I guess. But Gilbert is a war. He's a tank, man. Like, and that's the thing that people aren't talking about is like, they're like, oh, Masvidal's takedown defense is 75%, but like, and that's true. And he's fought obviously Colby and Kamaru recently, but like Gilbert's takedowns are different. Like he's not going to shoot a double leg. He's literally going to wrap you up in the clinch and like try to get like his arms locked and just be like out physical you.
Yeah.
That's what he does. So I think there's a big strength gap. I think there's a big commitment gap. And I think these guys are just – and another thing I haven't even mentioned, like if you're going through legal shit and lawsuits, that shit is taxing on you mentally.
Who's going through that?
With Jorge. With Colby.
Yeah.
So like I just think that like with all of that going on, like there's just no chance that doesn't impact you as a fighter. Like that is a lot. He's 3 felonies right now he's fighting.
Yeah.
Like we got one guy who's 3 felonies and has lost 12 decisions in the last 12 of his last 16 losses in the UFC or in MMA have been decision losses. And then we have another guy who is going to be cautious on the feet, is locked in, wants a title shot, I think gets a decision win.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. The one thing about Gilbert Burns where I kind of want to take him in like a round 3 knockout, which you can just get him to win in round 3 plus 1,200 on FanDuel is, dude, I mean, the way that he was striking with Khamzat was so impressive to me, man. Like he almost knocked him out. I mean, several times almost knocked him out.
I was there live. I was rooting for Gilbert like crazy. That was the most disrespectful odds I've ever seen in UFC.
What were the odds for that?
Gilbert was like what Masvidal is today as a dog against.
Okay, yeah,
he was like plus 400 or something.
Oh yeah, and Gilbert Burns was like top 3 at that point, right? Wasn't he like in the division?
So disrespectful.
Oh my god.
You have to bet him out of principle of it, and I feel like people are saying that now about Masvidal. Like he's in Miami, he has a chance. You get him at almost 4-1, whatever the number is. I'm just like, yeah, but like if he loses, he's still gonna lose. Like I get you have to bet value, and I actually am a big I love betting value because that over the long run you have to bet value. You can't just bet on what you think is gonna happen. But like I don't know, man. I just don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to get beat up for 3 rounds. I also never believe anything Masvidal says. Like he just says shit to sell shit. And
he's a promoter too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that Gilbert Burns, the way he punches, you could see it visibly It's just different, man. I mean, he's obviously he's great at takedowns. I mean, he has a full arsenal, but
Yeah,
dude, he has some power, and Masvidal can be dropped. Like he can fall too, right? We've seen that before.
yeah,
And if he is half in this fight or thinking about retirement, or like maybe it's round 3 and he's like, fuck this a little bit, like in his head, he's gonna get knocked out, or
right.
something's gonna happen. So I'm probably gonna sprinkle just a little bit on that result. But I agree with you. That's probably going to start really slow, right? This is two guys going to test each other out, respect between both fighters,
Yeah.
because they don't hate each other, right? It's just like, but of course they both want to win. Is this also for the BMF title? That dumb shit. Is it for
I
that?
don't think Gilbert's even involved in that, but
Okay,
who
yeah,
the hell
no.
knows?
I mean,
Yeah,
hopefully The Rock isn't there doing that
Gilbert's just
again.
going for that belt, man. He is locked in. Ever since I saw him lose to Kamaru Usman and cry, like I could see just deep down like how much this shit means to him and
Yeah,
how much work he puts into his craft. And I just think he's locked in on another level. I mean, I'm even nervous betting the decision because a part of me is like, oh, he's going to go out and just finish Masvidal the way he did.
yeah. I
Magny.
think he's pretty determined, but
Yeah, but at the same time, I look at the numbers and I'm like, Masvidal doesn't really get finished. Like he did against Kamaru, but like
yes,
he really doesn't get
true.
finished. The numbers just make sense on the decision prop. And I feel like everyone's going to be betting on violence in this fight. So it's kind of like a contrarian play, too.
Yeah, a 38-year-old Jorge, though, I don't know. It could be a little different version of him.
Right.
We'll
Believe
see.
me, it's scary. It's definitely
Yeah, it's gonna be a battle. I mean, hopefully, either way. And I love that co-main event. I mean, it's in Miami, right? So you're gonna have some heat there between both of them.
Yeah. I'll
All
tell
right,
you one thing. It's almost it almost is in a sick way when you're watching the fights, like rooting for that KO is kind of like betting the over, right? In sports.
yeah,
Whereas
it really is.
yeah, but like having to go in the distance is nerve wracking. Like you're like, oh, there can't be a finish, but
Oh
like
my God, especially between two bangers like these guys, like they're gonna be throwing
yeah, but it just
haymakers at
feels
some point.
easier. Like it feels easier sometimes where you're like you when you just need a knockout, you're like,
I
fuck,
know,
it
I
sucks.
know.
Like, I need a knockout, get the knockout, and
I've been
then
finding myself on that end of it. Just
yeah,
waiting
because
for the
people love
knockout.
betting that. It's literally it's the opposite. It's just like the over in sports
Yeah,
is betting on these finishes and like then a takedown happens and then 3 minutes of control time and you're like, oh shit, and then the round's over and then
everyone's rolling their eyes.
yeah, there's just so much that happens. So, you
Yeah.
know,
All right. Well, speaking of takedowns, let's go to the main event because Israel Adesanya, he thinks that he, was easily winning that last fight. I'll tell you, I mean, the way I looked at this from the very beginning, Matt, is, I mean, so we have Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. Pereira is still an underdog, plus 114 on FanDuel. I was kind of shocked that he's the underdog, man. I mean, I do think, I realize Israel Adesanya, this is, for any fighter, this is probably the spot to take him, right? I mean, he's extremely motivated. He cannot lose this fight in his mind because then he kind of drops down to like everybody else in the middleweight division, right? Like he's not, I don't know if he's just the same Israel after this if he loses again, right? He's got all the spectacle around him all the time. The UFC loves him. But Alex Pereira, man, he just might be the boogeyman for him, dude. Like he just seems like more, I mean, he's a bigger dude. He throws harder. What do you got on this one, man? This should be entertaining. I hope it isn't like some kind of fucking bogus early, like ending or something, because this one hopefully goes all 5 rounds and it's really entertaining.
yeah,
Or maybe not all 5 rounds, but at
right,
least it's a good fight, 3+.
yeah. So I hit Alex Pereira round 5 at 30-1 last time they fought. It was probably my favorite bet I've ever hit in my life because just the ups and downs of that fight to get there. I mean, Alex was almost out on his feet in the end of the first round, right? Then he's getting taken down, he's tired. But Alex, like, he's pretty smart. Like he'll literally lose a round just to recover because he knows he's down anyways and he's gonna finish. And like I think this fight, he's gonna come out more aggressive. Like I think he knows that he just needs to get right in Izzy's face and like get him up against the cage. And I don't know, man. Like I think if you're Adesanya, like yeah, you want to mix in wrestling, but like if you start shooting takedowns, you're like admitting like that this guy's better than you on the feet, and I just can't see him
Good point. Yeah.
doing that, man. I guess he's gonna. I think he's full of shit. Like I saw him in the press conference saying, "I'm gonna put him on his back," and then he said, "Oh, I didn't mean to say that type of vibe," and I think it was fake. I don't know, But I mean, and then here's the other thing. You start shooting takedowns as a guy that's not a wrestler. Like Izzy is not a wrestler. If he starts shooting takedowns, you better watch out for that knee. And I just have a feeling
knee uppercut. Yeah.
Alex could hit. I mean, we saw what Kelvin Gastelum did with the head kick against Izzy that wobbled him. Alex has these flying knees and these head kicks, and Alex had a ton of success with those leg kicks in the first fight.
Yeah.
And like if Alex starts throwing those leg kicks out there, and then the next thing you know, one goes to the head. Like I just think Izzy has to be perfect for 25 minutes. I'm not willing to bet that. I think if these guys fought 10 straight times and Izzy lost 9 times, like literally odds makers would have Izzy as a favorite in the 10th fight.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. I'm willing to lose money on this fight bet in Alex's money line because he's made me so much. And if that's what happens, it happens. And maybe the UFC wants a trilogy, but like give me Alex money line, give me the knockout props. I would take knockouts round 2 through 5 in this fight. I obviously don't think it's happened in the first round, but like I do think it could happen sooner this time. And here's the other thing: UFC champs in the rematch, like 3-11 or some shit, 3-12. I don't know, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
We just saw Kamaru. Everyone was like, "There's no way Kamaru loses to Leon again. He's gonna just spam wrestle him. He's gonna just unanimous decision win." I took Leon Edwards in that fight. I had the money line. I sprinkled on the KO. Didn't win that one, but it's just the numbers are the numbers. We're taking like just like forget these guys' names, right?
Yeah.
We're taking fighter A, who is plus money and has beat this guy 3 times in combat sports, and it's proven that champs that lose the belt in the rematch just historically don't win the second time. I'm like, give me the plus money. It's not complicated to me.
I love that we're in agreement about this one. Has some good disagreement on the show too, which is great for content, by the way. You can choose which side you like.
Yeah.
But in this one, I feel the same way, man. I mean, Alex Pereira, the thing I like about him is he seems egoless, like he's just, I mean, he's a tactician, he's a technician. UFC experts talk about him that he can go up to heavyweight. He's just like the bigger dude, right? He's like wider. I think he's more dense. And if he goes at Israel, like you said from the very start, or if Israel, I like your point that you made a lot, that Israel probably has to seem a little bit like I'm being a bitch if I just try to wrestle this guy all the time. So he doesn't want to do that, right? He wants to put on a show a little bit. He's going to have to throw with him at least for half this fight. And that's a dangerous situation from what we've seen against Alex Pereira, who just is the bigger fighter. I think he has harder strikes. That's pretty obvious. Those leg kicks were opened up right from the beginning of that last fight and really had an effect on the whole thing. He could do the same thing again, no problem. I don't see any change in that. So, dude, I mean, I love Israel, right? I mean, he's a great personality.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think this just might be like his kryptonite. And I like your round bets too. You're going to take 2 through 5?
2 through 5, yeah. I think I've seen round 2 was like 12-1, I think it was, and then they go up like 14, 16, 20-1. Now it's funny because the round 5 is 20-1 now. I had it at 30-1 at the first fight. But the first fight I sprinkled round 3, 4, 5. And literally the reason I did that was I watched Izzy in some of his previous fights, like even the Jared Cannonier fight.
Yeah.
Like, and then I forget one of the other fights as well before that. Like these guys came on late against him and like actually landed. Like if Cannonier is landing on you in rounds 4 and 5, I was like, what is Pereira going to do?
Yeah.
So I just had to, I just watched all that footage and I was like, these odds are huge. And the fight it was lucky because the fight played out perfectly because Pereira was down on the scorecards and he took a round to recover, get his gas tank back. And so this is to me the most fun way to bet in the UFC. Like if I have to sweat for 5 or 10 minutes to get to a certain point, and then I have like a 5 to 10, 15-minute window where I can get a finish, I love betting that way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like you said, you're right. I mean, he's probably going to be more settled in this time. He's the champ. And in these rematches, I think the champion that comes to fight has more confidence, right? They have something to defend. They have like a responsibility.
Yeah. And he's only going to be better in MMA, like every fight. Like he's only going to be better training with Glover Teixeira, like
which is terrifying.
He's going to be more well-rounded every fight. Yeah. I still don't know how this guy makes weight. He is massive.
I don't know. He reminds me of what's that real dense dude? I always forget his name. From Cuba, who He fought Israel too, and they like didn't do anything for like 3 minutes. Remember that? What's that dude's name? Wrestler, Olympic wrestler. I don't know why I can never remember this some bitch's name, but it's like I don't know how he ever made weight. You're gonna know who I mean when I say it, but that's how Alex Pereira is. Like this dude could fight at 250, and probably be moving around swiftly. But yeah, dude, it's just I don't know. I think Alex Pereira is the boogeyman. I think he gets another knockout.
Jan Blachowicz?
No, Jan, the Polish power, bro. That's gonna kill me if I can't.
Vittori, Whitaker, Romero, Costa.
Romero, yeah. Yoel Romero looks like he's 250 pounds and he's like 170. Like, what are we doing?
He does really well against those like shorter, jacked guys like Paulo Costa, Romero. Like those guys don't have a chance against him. Like it's all matchup. It's all about how people match up against each other.
Yeah, and Pereira is just as long, and he's way more powerful if you ask me.
Yeah.
Matty Betts, man, it was great to have you on, man. I'm looking to have you on here for a long time. You can come on here and talk UFC with me anytime. I feel like the world is split. Either you hate UFC because it feels like gladiators, or you fucking love it like us. I love it, man. It's a great sport.
Fantastic.
You got to be careful around corners now because you don't know who's training MMA these days. This should be a great card, man. I hope you enjoy it. You're probably going to be having a better time than I am in South Florida. I'm going to, just be at home. Probably the newborn's going to be up with me at that. Not up. But I'm going to have responsibility. So thanks, man. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to get after it like you.
Yeah.
But I'll be with it, man. Hopefully win some big cash this weekend. Anything else you want to leave us with?
No, that's it. It was a great card. I mean, lots of action for sure. So hopefully we hit some bets.
Yeah, man. At Matty Betts, again, 2 S's at the end on Twitter. Check him out. There's a lot of great work across all sports. We'll see you here next time, Matt. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, bro.